Hello, all you beautiful people. We go live in 3 minutes. If you're on the social media, please press the share button and get it out to those who can't be here. Again, we go live in 3 minutes. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan, and I'm the pastor.
Oh my.
I'm gonna try that one more time.
All right, let's start over. Go ahead.
All right, I'm Ryan, I'm the pastor here. So good to be with you all tonight. To all of you joining us online, our online people, we're glad you're here. We're glad you're part of this community. Thank you for engaging on the Facebook Live, on YouTube. Y'all are part of us, and we're just grateful for that. So thank you for being here. And to all of you, let me give you the reminder. We are, my mic seems a little hot, fellas. We are a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection.
True.
And those are things we do, and there is something we don't do.
There's one thing we don't
There
do.
is one thing we do
It's true.
not do in this community, and y'all can say it on the count of three, all four words. 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame.
They're doing so
Because
good.
God doesn't do shame. We honor our own journey when we accept where others are in theirs.
It's true.
We don't do shame. It's a very simple principle we live by in this community. And listen, y'all, there's a lot happening here. How many of y'all went to the Sip and Shop today? Yeah, a few of you are still going on out there. I know there's a lot of people still in the cafe. They'll be late and they'll make their way in. But Noelle, tell us what's coming up and give us a little recap of today and all the good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. First, I just want to shout out Transition Sober Living Home for supplying the drip coffee tonight. Thank you, Scott, and for doing that for us every week. We sure appreciate you guys. Thank you, buddy. So first things first, if tonight is your first night here, welcome. We're so glad you're here with us tonight. Please grab a welcome bag on your way out the door. They're right behind Jeremy. He's the one with the cute little baby right here. There's a table on the other side of Jeremy. There's a bag in there about what Wagon Coffee does, a little bit about what we do here at Free Spiritual Community, bracelet, and some other swag items. So please grab one on your way out and just know that you're welcome here and we're glad you're here. You just touched on it, but we had our sip and shop today. It's our second one that we've had. So for those of you who don't know, a sip and shop is just local artisans and vendors within the area, small business owners. They come in and showcase their goods and products, and people can grab a coffee from the cafe and just sip on their coffee and shop. And so we had our second one today. It was a big success, and so we're grateful for all y'all that came out, and then for those of you who participated, thank you so much for doing so. Yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah, we bought hot sauce, barbecue sauce,
A lot of hot sauce, barbecue
earrings,
sauce,
not for me, but for the others. We got all kinds of good stuff.
There was art and clothes,
Yeah.
and man, it was a good time. So thank you all for participating and then joining in for that with us today. So, man, this coming Monday, we will have our Faith in Blue event. And so what that event's going to be, just local resource officers, so local police officers from the Denver County area are going to come in and can answer some community questions, just kind of a meet and greet. So I think we'll be in this room for the meet and greet portion and talking a little bit in the cafe after. But that's this coming Monday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And it's called our Faith in Blue event. So come out if you have nothing to do, and hopefully you don't and can come check it out.
Yeah, it's our way of building good relationships in the community and realizing what we have. So.
Absolutely, it'll be great.
Yeah.
Last step, so October 29th, it's the last Saturday of the month, we're going to be having a Halloween event. So before service, starting at 5, we're going to have a trick-or-treat street for all the kids. So to go around different stations around for you, we'll probably have about 7 of them throughout free, just to trick-or-treat throughout. So costumes are encouraged, and then afterwards, we're teaming up with Aurora Sober Living, and we're gonna have kind of a Halloween bash, and after-service party right next door in the cafe. The cafe will be open, there will be light snacks and food that are provided. So we're just asking that everyone, dress up, and costumes
What are you
welcome.
dressing up as?
I can't tell you, but it's gonna be good.
Okay.
It's gonna be good.
I love Pac-Man. I have a fascination with Pac-Man. We'll see.
All right.
We'll see.
Well, bring your kids that night, dress them up, and hopefully y'all can come dressed up as well. And it'll be a great night. So that's October 27th, trick-or-treat. 29th, I'm sorry. Trick-or-treat street starts at 5, and then the after-service party following service that night.
Awesome. Thank you, Noel. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving
welcome.
us the down low, the lowdown. All right, y'all, the way we kick things off in this community, we do it each and every week. We start with celebrations. We don't ignore the hard stuff. We don't ignore the pain, but we don't start with it. We actually end with heartaches, but we start with celebrations. So it's your opportunity, if you're here tonight and you're celebrating a sobriety anniversary, or maybe it's a new baby or a new job, whatever the new thing is, we want to celebrate it with you. We believe that God joins with us in a celebration. If you're online, just drop that celebration in the comments on YouTube or Facebook. We want to celebrate with you. This is like a profound thing that happens in our community when we celebrate together. It's so important. So you got 3 minutes. Derek's going to pass around a mic. Just slip up your hand and give us your celebration. Let's take 3.
My name is Jeremy, and I'm an addict, and last week I picked up 12 years of sobriety.
Hey, my name is Chase, and tonight I'm celebrating 3 years of sobriety.
Awesome.
I got new pairs of earrings. Hi, my name's Kaylee, and we made a lot of money today, and my big brother went to 5280 High School.
I'm Kaylin, I'm an addict. On the 14th, I'll be celebrating 10 months of sobriety.
My name is Harry. On October 4th, I celebrated 20 years of sobriety.
Hi, I'm Justin. Thursday was my 6-month sobriety date, and I want to thank God and everybody else for helping me out.
That's awesome. I got Chris.
Hey everyone, my name is Chris and celebrated 9 months last Wednesday. I'm also celebrating being reunited with my family and my children, and it's just praise to God.
Love you, buddy.
Hey, I'm Austin, and I just got 4 months sobriety.
Yeah. My man.
Come on, there's got to be some more celebration. Who wants in?
I'll celebrate something. 3 years ago today, I walked in the doors to free, hot on meth, struggling, broken, and today I got new life because of this place. So I'll celebrate that.
All right.
Hi, my name is Christine, recovering with alcohol, and I just want to say, anybody new here tonight, we're so glad that you're here. It's a wonderful community. I'm really glad to be a part of it, and we love it when new faces show up. We're so happy you're here. Thank you.
I got one more.
My name is Josh. Just a couple days in, got introduced to this place by a friend of mine, and I couldn't be happier that I'm here today.
Where's your mother?
She's in the 1, 2, 3, 4th row back.
Well, I'm celebrating Sherry being in town.
My mom is in town all the way from Fort Myers, Florida.
Yeah.
Good to have you here, Mama. All right, Tammy, you want to start us with some online celebrations?
I do. Hey, Stephen, I want to congratulate everyone who celebrated sobriety anniversaries. Yeah, there are a lot of them tonight.
Yes, we did. Thank you for lifting them up, Stephen. Absolutely. Connie says, I celebrate having life and having free spiritual community in my life. I'm so happy to hear all the sobriety celebration. You all are awesome.
We love
Thank you for
Connie.
that, Connie. We're glad you're part of this community.
Yes, we are. Mike says, grateful that no matter how hard life gets, I am glad I know I can get through it with God and other people in recovery. Also, 2 weeks, I'll be there. I heard that. Pam told me.
Yes, Mike, we can't wait to have you here all the way from Chicago.
In 1 week? 22nd. Okay. Yay.
Very good. Alyssa says, celebrating 5 months sober, thanking God every day for my good health. Alyssa,
Great
we are
job,
celebrating
Alyssa.
with you. Happy 5 months.
All right, Trip and Sharon. We want to celebrate our daughter-in-law being sober coming up on a year. We also want to celebrate our son, JJ, going into get his GED. Along with Sharon, it's been a long time coming. We always want to celebrate Trip for being a hard-working family man. Yeah.
Trip and Sharon, so
Y'all are
glad
good
you're part of
people.
this community. We love y'all, celebrating with you.
Steph.
Stephanie says, up in Michigan, where it's probably cold and snowing already. Now she says, celebrating everything and everyone that this year has brought to my life. It's led me all over the country, and next week I will be watching from my new home. Cool. God keeps me sober and sheltered. Love.
We love you, buddy.
Yes, congratulations on the new home, Stephanie.
We have to celebrate Breck real quick, too.
Oh, yeah, celebrate Breck.
Yeah, Breck, he is in mixed martial arts, and he got his orange belt today. So,
Our boy Breck. Now, Tammy, Keaton will confirm this, but I asked for water, and you filled it up with coffee.
I love it. It is water.
It is?
Yeah, it's just watered down.
It looks like coffee. That's some. So if I don't sleep tonight, y'all, I tried to just limit myself to 1 cup of coffee tonight, but I got another somehow. That's what happens when your wife is a coffee roaster. All right, y'all, we are starting a new series tonight. Chase, who is celebrating 3 years sober, Chase and Abby are going to be our guest storytellers in just a bit. I can't wait for y'all to hear from them. But we're starting a new series called Recovery and Relationships.
Boom.
Dude.
Wow. Stop. What? Bye.
How do you like that? So it was just last week that the very powerful Category 4 Hurricane Ian landed on the southwest coast of Florida. And as we just let y'all know, my mom is just flew in today. She is from Fort Myers, Florida, where Hurricane Ian landed. And my sister and her family live down in Naples, Florida. It's just a few miles south, where also Hurricane Ian landed. And y'all know I was talking to them like the days leading up to this Hurricane Ian. And my mom told me the story of how on the mornings leading up, because you get some time with the news, you know, these days, that neighbors would gather in her home each morning for coffee. She would serve them coffee, and then they would go out together and they would help each other put up shutters and prepare their homes for the storm to hit. And, you know, the night before Hurricane Ian hit, I'd call my mom and just checking in, and she answered the phone. She said, "Ryan, I can't talk right now. We have a group of people. We're in the living room. They're over and we're praying together." And, you know, I was talking to my sister the day after Hurricane Ian hit that southwest coast, and she was driving and she was describing the scene to me. She says, "Ryan, you just couldn't believe it. Like, there are cars in places cars shouldn't be because they were carried by the storm surge." And she said there's just large objects in the street, and everywhere you look, it just looks like a disaster zone. And, you know, water came right up to their garage and stopped. But for many of her neighbors, they weren't so lucky. Water from the storm surge came in, feet and feet of water in their house, destroying and ruining everything. And for the last several days, my sister and her family, including their 3 children, they have been in neighbors' homes helping clean up the wreckage. And she said it's been really amazing to see neighborhoods and communities come together. And the truth is, for those cities and towns that were impacted by Hurricane Ian, they're going to have many, many months of recovery and cleanup. And I don't know, is it possible that sometimes when it feels like things are falling apart, sometimes some things are actually falling together? And listen, y'all, I get that we are not dealing with the aftermath of a literal hurricane here. But here in this community, we are a recovery community dealing with the recovery efforts of some of the messes that have been created by our addiction. And those messes always involve relationships, don't they? Always involve relationships with family and friends and spouses and partners and coworkers. And so in this series, we are going to explore together, what does it look like for us to create and maintain healthy relationships in our recovery? Are you with me? And I want to frame this series with that question. Is it possible that when it feels like things are falling apart, sometimes some things are actually falling together? Now, there's this really kind of weird and beautiful story in the New Testament book of Acts. And if you're new to the Bible, Acts is found in the New Testament. So there's the Old Testament or Hebrew Bible, then the New Testament. It starts with the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Then you get this book called Acts. And it's a description of these early Jesus followers, how the early movement started and how it spread. And this story, it comes from Acts chapter 16. And it's a story about Paul. And Paul is like a missionary. He goes off into a town and he'll start a movement. Then he'll make sure it gets started. And then he'll leave and he'll go start another one. Then go to another part of the region and start another one. And he just keeps doing it. And oftentimes when he traveled, he would bring a companion with him. And on this trip, he brought Silas, his friend Silas, with him. And this story takes place in the city of Philippi. And the backstory to the story I want to share with you is this. Paul and Silas get into Philippi, And the text tells us that there was a slave girl there who was filled with the spirit of Python, which goes all the way back to the Greek goddesses, and there's lots of history there. But what you need to know about the spirit of Python is it allowed this slave girl to predict the future. So the story tells us that this slave girl was following them for days, and she was shouting out to everyone who would listen, "These two men will tell you everything you need to know. They'll tell you how to have real life." Which, by the way, seems like a brilliant marketing technique if you can get someone to follow you and shout your message and mission for you. But the text tells us that Paul was agitated. He was annoyed. He had had enough. So he turns around and says to the slave girl, "Spirit of Python, come out of her." And it works. The spirit of Python comes out. I told you a weird, beautiful story. Hang with me. The spirit of Python comes out. Now, if she's a slave girl, what's this mean? She has slave owners. They are making buku dollars off of this girl's ability to predict the future. Do you think they're happy with Paul's actions? No, they just lost their ability to make money. So these slave owners start yelling at Paul and Silas, accusing them of unlawful customs. They say these two Jews have come in our city and they've disrupted the economic system and they've caused an uproar in the city. And the crowds join the attacks. And the legal authorities have Paul and Silas stripped naked, beaten with rods, and thrown into prison where their feet are in chains to the floor. And I imagine for Paul and Silas in this moment, it felt like everything was falling apart. And y'all imagine for a moment, if you're Paul, what you must be thinking. Man, God, I decided to follow you, and this is what I get. Now remember, just before this, Paul had had a conversion experience, a spiritual awakening. He was the one not too long ago going into cities persecuting these Jesus followers. He would round them up and get them handcuffed and then bring them to this place of persecution. And remember, he was walking into Damascus, a bright light from the heavens comes down, and it was this conversion moment for him. God says, "Paul, what are you doing?" A spiritual awakening. God, I follow you. I mean, I've been trying to be my authentic self, be who you created me to be, and this is what I get, stripped naked, beaten with a rod, and thrown into prison where I'm in chains. And y'all, the truth is, many of you have been called into a new way of life through your recovery. You've undergone a conversion experience, a spiritual awakening. You see and live differently now. But the thing is, things aren't going exactly the way you thought they would go. The relationships in your life got messier even after you got clean and sober. Is it true? And is it possible that when it feels like things are falling apart, sometimes some things are actually falling together? You know, maybe you feel like you've been following God, or you've been following the steps laid out by the universe before you. And you're like, "God, man, I don't get it. I'm trying to do the right thing here. I'm clean and sober now. I'm working my recovery program. I'm working these steps," or whatever program you're working. And this is what I get, this kind of mess. Man, I thought my relationship with my spouse or my significant other, I thought it would be repaired by now. I thought my kids would want to be around me again by now. I thought my parents would trust me again. And instead, they're just asking the same old questions. And God, by the way, I thought I would find the love of my life by now, but I'm still single. This is life. Yeah. Is it true? We expect to get clean and sober and just kind of move up. And instead, what we get is all those squiggly lines. Yeah. So I want you to take a moment. Reflect on your life. What are the things that are falling together in your relationships? What are the things that God is redeeming along the way? And my brothers and sisters, change your perspective. Life is going to happen, but don't miss God's redeeming work that is happening in you, through you, and all around you. Yeah, your relationship with your spouse or your partner, your significant other, it's rocky right now. And maybe for the first time in your life, you're going through something hard with them, but you're not picking up a drink. You see, change your perspective. And those kids, yeah, your kids, the ones you hurt, the ones you wounded when you were active in your addiction, man, they don't hate you. They do not hate you. But they need to see that the change is real. They need to see that it's actually real this time. And that takes some time, doesn't it? Change your perspective. And your parents, and all the questions they keep asking you. Do you remember the fear you put them in? Do you remember the pain you put them in? Yeah, change your perspective. You can handle those questions. They get to ask you questions. They will never stop loving you, but they might actually have some boundaries in their life now, and this is a good thing. Change your perspective. Oh, and Mr. Right hasn't shown up yet, has he? Yeah, but do you have friendships? Do you have deep and meaningful friendships in your life? The ones that celebrate you, the ones that sustain you during difficult times. Y'all, don't underestimate those friendships. I have to tell you, I'm reading this fascinating book right now. It's called Platonic, How the Science of Attachment Can Help You Make and Keep Friends, written by Dr. Marissa Franco. You're going to see this book come up in the series because it's that fascinating. And she talks about the power of friendships and how it's been so undermined culturally, but it's so important. It's like these relationships that hold us together. She says, friendships' impact, do we have the quote? There it is. Friendships' impact is as profound as it is underestimated. Ancient Greeks philosophized that it is the key to flourishing. Do you have those friendships that celebrate you and sustain you? You see, what are the things that are falling together in the relationships around you? Because I promise you, God is doing a new thing through all those squiggly lines in your life. But you must change your perspective. And yes, y'all, I get it. That is hard. It's painful. It's uncomfortable because all you can see right now are the things in front of you falling apart. You can see the things that aren't working. And by the way, what do we do in step 7? For those of you 12-steppers in the room, what do we do in step 7? Yeah, we humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. Why? Because those shortcomings always keep us from seeing and living into the new perspective. It's why in this book commonly called the 12 and 12, but the title is the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, when they talk about step 7, they say this: for us, the process of gaining a new perspective was unbelievably painful. It was only by repeated humiliations that we were forced to learn something about humility. All those squiggly lines in your life, they are teaching you something. I know, easier said than done, right? But they're teaching us new things. Reliance on God, teaching us a way out of ourselves, teaching us that we don't have all the answers, teaching us humility, teaching us that God is good even when it feels like things are falling apart. So here Paul and Silas are in prison, and I want you to hear just these few verses. Do we have it on the screen? I'm going to read it anyway. About midnight, and I want to pause there for just a moment, because whenever you see those two words in Scripture, and I promise I won't do this all the way through, but whenever you see about midnight, another way it's translated is in the middle of the night. It's the storyteller giving us a huge heads up that says, pay attention, because God moves in the middle of the night. The big thing happens, and there's story after story around this. We could do a whole sermon series on it. The big thing happens in the middle of the night, and you don't want to miss it. So about midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the other prisoners were listening to them. Suddenly there was such a violent earthquake that the foundations of the prison were shaken. At once all the prison doors flew open and everyone's chains came loose. The jailer woke up when he saw the prison doors open. He drew his sword and was about to kill himself because he thought that the prisoners had escaped. Imagine you're the prison guard. He knows his history. If your prisoners escape, you're on a line for it, off with your head. He knows history. He's going to do himself in. For him, in this moment, everything is falling apart. But don't miss this relationship. Next verse. But Paul shouted, "Don't harm yourself. We're all still here." Y'all know it's easy to read this story and say, see? See? God sent the earthquake, and they were free. Which, if you're Paul and Silas, well, that may be a fine reading. But if you live down the street from the prison and that earthquake has just destroyed your home, not such a good reading, is it? In other words, and y'all, we talk about this often, we have to be very careful when we start attributing tragic events in the world, natural disasters in the world, to God did this. God was punishing them, God was getting them back, or God was setting some people free. We have to be very careful. God does not go around the world creating suffering, creating natural disasters. It's why they're called natural disasters. God is not found in those tragic events. God is found in the healing of those tragic events. The big thing happening in the story, the thing you don't want to miss, Paul was living into his new identity. Paul didn't run. Paul stays. Don't harm yourself. We're all still here. Put the sword down. You don't have to do it. And can't you imagine Paul is binding himself to the other person, binding himself to this prison guard that was holding him captive. And wouldn't Silas be saying, "Paul, come on, dude, let's go. Man, we're free. The chains are loose. For freedom, we have been set free." And can't you hear Paul say, "Silas, dude, you don't know the first thing about freedom. Our freedom is tied into his freedom. We're staying." And if we were to go on to read the rest of the story, the jailer, he looks at Paul and Silas and he says, "How do I get that kind of life? That kind of life that you all just demonstrated me. How do I get that kind of life?" And the prison guard invites Paul and Silas into his home. He cleans their wounds. They share a meal together. It ends with Paul baptizing him and his entire family. And get this, y'all, he was free to go, but he gave himself for the freedom of the other. And by the way, how does the story end? One verse, verse 36. The prison guard is speaking to Paul and Silas, and he says to them, "The authorities sent word that you are to be released. You can leave now. Go in peace." Some of the most beautiful stories in Scripture end with "go in peace." Have you experienced that kind of peace? Where things around you are falling apart, but you hear God say to you, usually through other people, No. I got you. I got you. You don't have to run. I got you." You see, is it possible that when it feels like things are falling apart, sometimes some things are actually falling together? So I want to leave you with these two things when it comes to your relationships and your recovery. And the first is this: you must break your addiction to negative. Yes, stop obsessing over everything that's not working in your relationships and start pointing to the things that are. Yeah, that earthquake happened, but don't miss the chains that were knocked loose in that earthquake. And yes, you will have to change if you want your relationships to be healthy. And I know we hear it all the time, y'all. "Well, I'm not going to change. If they don't accept me for who I am, then they're just not worthy of my presence. And I'm not going to change for nobody. I am who I am." And y'all know that's a bunch of BS, right? It is BS. That is your ego getting in the way. Ego is not your amigo. You will have to change. You will have to change some of your behaviors. You will have to change some of the ways you approach these relationships. You will have to change some of the ways you interact in these relationships. You have to change. And the second thing I want to leave you with is this. What would it look like for you to bind yourself to the other? Another way of asking this might be, what would it look like for you to lean into that person? You know, last year about this time, Tammy, my wife, and I, we sought out a marriage counselor. And man, it's the weirdest thing because Free was an interesting time in life. Free was growing. Her business, Wagon Coffee, was growing by leaps and bounds. And we were also in this interesting time. Some of y'all will remember this. We were in our old space, and we had a contract on a new space, and we were in that contract for 3 months, and we had to terminate the contract after a long series of events, and it was kind of painful. And man, we just needed some outside perspective. Listen, don't ever be embarrassed or ashamed when you seek out therapy or counseling. We need that outside perspective. And during that time in our life, Tammy and I, we were like passing ships in the night. We were losing some of the things we loved most, like communication and time, and we were just passing each other. We needed that outside perspective because what we learned in our marriage is we don't want things to just be okay. Oh yeah, it's okay. It's okay. No. We know what it's like and we want to do it. We want to thrive together. We want things to be more than okay. And we met with that counselor for several weeks on Tuesday mornings at 10 o'clock. And several weeks, man, she would say the most brilliant things to us. And she had new insights and gave us new perspectives. And she said one thing that just totally stood out to me. It hit me in my feels. Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, she looked at me dead in the eyes and she said, Ryan, when things are hard for you, can you lean into her? And y'all, I can't explain to you the vulnerability of that moment. And what made it hard at the time was, why is this so vulnerable? I'm sitting next to my wife, whom I've been married to for 17 years. Why does this feel so vulnerable? I feel so exposed. And what I can tell you is fear crept in, and fear does silly things to me. Man, I was scared of things growing and going well. I was scared at the same time because they can coexist of losing everything and losing what I had. And fear it cause me to go into self-protection mode. Fear causes me to put up self-defenses with people I don't need to put up self-defenses with. Fear does crazy things. And when she looked at me and said, can you lean into her? I crumbled. It was like this moment where it was this invitation to finally stop running and an invitation to just be home. And I thought to myself in that moment, yeah, I can do this. Yeah, I can do this. I know what it's like. We've done it before. I know what this is like. Y'all know my story. It was January 7th, 2013. The day I got sober. It was Tammy who came down the stairs holding another empty vodka bottle, crying, tears running down her face. And she says, what are we going to do? Not you, POS. What are you going to do about this? What are we going? Yeah, I can lean into her. I know what it's like, and it's good. And making a 9th step amends to her, sitting in our living room, reliving some of that pain. Oh, I can lean into her. I remember the grace that was extended, the forgiveness that was offered. Yeah, I can do this. Even when it's hard. 17 years of marriage, and we still get to learn what it's like to lean into each other. So my brothers and sisters, during this season of your life, what relationships do you need to lean into? Who are you binding yourself to? And choose these relationships wisely, the ones who are your sense of home, the ones who will say to you, yeah, I got word, just got word from the big dog. Word is, you're free. Go in peace. Who are those people? And is it possible that when it feels like things are falling apart, sometimes some things are actually falling together. Take a moment and reflect. Who are those people? Who is God? Who are you binding yourself to? Where do you need to change in your relationships? Reflect on some of that while you hear this song by NF. It's called If You Want Love. Who's heard that song before? NF? Where's my NF fans? Come on now. There we go. We got a few of you here. All right, y'all, if you're new with us, you should know that every single Saturday night we have a guest storyteller. Tonight you get a bonus because there's 2 guest storytellers in the house. And I always invite them to just come and share some of their experience with us around this topic, some of their experience, strength, and hope around this. And I always tell them the same thing: the more honest, the more vulnerable you are, the better it is. It's just the truth. And so tonight, I can't wait for y'all to hear Chase and Abby's story. Abby's been sober for 5 years. Chase celebrating 3 years sober today. So there was this period where they were married. They've been married for a while, but this period of being married together and Chase not being sober and the difficulties that come with that. But y'all, and I can't stress this enough, the difficulties that come even after you get clean and sober. We want things to go like this, but they got a bunch of squiggly lines in it. So I can't wait for y'all to hear Chase and Abby's story. Y'all come on up and give them a big, warm welcome.
Okay, great.
Hey, y'all match tonight, rocking the black. Look at you.
We do that sometimes.
Now y'all have to you have to hear this first. How many years have you guys been married?
So we have been married for 13 years, but together almost 20.
Okay, 13 years together, 20. When Abby saw Chase, I wrote this in my notes. She said, "I need to know your name because I'm gonna marry you." Now, I don't know if I recommend that pickup line, but it worked for y'all.
It did work for us.
What's your name? Because we're going to be married soon.
Yeah, I saw him walk in and it was like a ton of bricks. I just knew. And so I walked up to him and I said, I need to know what your name is because I'm going to marry you.
Went on a date and I kind of never went home again.
All right, y'all. So let's start with this. Inactive addiction. What were the things that were falling apart regarding your relationship, your family life? What were the things that were falling apart?
Everything. Our lives had become totally unmanageable.
You're just pretty much living in a nightmare day in and day out.
It was fighting constantly. Our kids were scared of us. It was unable to pay our bills, unable to make it through a day without something that just felt like tragedy all the time.
I would walk in from a hard day's work, and all you would hear is pitter-patter of feet running to their rooms and closing doors because they're afraid to be around us.
So you'd get home from work and your family would just scatter. Dad's home, he's going to do his thing, I don't want to be around.
That is loneliness and addiction in itself.
Yeah.
And then it was, which one of you are drinking? We would yell at each other, oh, you couldn't do anything all day. And, I'd be like, have you already started drinking? And it was just this combative reactiveness to each other all the time.
And you also talked about, I don't know how you guys term it, suicide ideation, suicidal attempts?
Yeah, so July 27th, 2017, our kids were in Disneyland. We had had a wonderful dinner, and the party just couldn't stop for me. So I went out with friends I have a few of them that are here tonight. And I came home, and Chase was just mad at me. He was like disgusted. And I had felt that so many times before, just that shame and the loneliness and the hurt that I was causing people and that I felt myself. And I decided that the only way I could stop that loneliness was to die. Because that's what happens when you're drinking. You're committing slow suicide. And I went into the bathroom and I locked the door, and by the grace of God, I passed out. And I woke up the next morning and I said, I have to change. And I wrote down 5 reasons why I needed to change. And the number 1 reason was for my children. They deserve to have a sober mom. Number 2 was I felt so much shame when I was drinking, and I didn't want to feel that anymore. And I have never had another drink since that day.
Okay, so you got sober 5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just doing some quick basic math, not my strong suit, but I can do basic stuff. That means you were in this marriage for 2 years when things had to be rocky, things had to be hard, and I mention this because Tammy gets the question a lot, and I asked you this question: why'd you stay?
I loved him. And the truth of the matter was, we always have this thing, at least for me, and it's part of my controlling nature, is that, if this doesn't get better, then I have to do something. If this doesn't get better, then this is going to happen. And I finally was talking to a girlfriend, and she said, Abby, do you want to divorce Chase today? And I said, no. And she said, then you've made a choice. So now you have to figure out how to live your life with your husband, who is an active alcoholic.
It was almost like a guilt drink because she was getting sober and I couldn't do it. So I just continued to drink. I drank myself day in, day out. I drank to live, and I lived to drink. It was a terrifying mess for everybody around me. Parents couldn't sleep. They were wondering where I was, if I was dead or alive. There was days I was sleeping in cars to avoid a conflict with fighting with Abby. It was just everyday nightmare. And I put her through that for 2 long years. Until one day, woke up in a car, finally decided to suck it up and come home, and with the help of my parents, got into a rehab.
Chase is pointing out there because his parents are here tonight. It's good to have you all here.
Actually, our families are here, my mom and my sister and our friends. And, you know, that part about focusing on the relationships when things are falling apart, we leaned into our people. And, you know, my friends are here who would at times have to, when Chase was drinking, you know, pick me up because I didn't know. I was trying to figure out who I was. You know, I'm white knuckling it, trying to be sober. My husband is drinking. And then when he decided to get sober, and prior to him getting sober, I finally just started saying to him, you know, you're loved, you're missed, and I hope you make good choices. And I made his alcoholism his journey. And it took me a long time to get there. And once it became his, I think it was incredible that you went and got help 3 years ago today.
And through the whole thing, one of the things Abby always has said to me is, you're drowning of 6 inches of water. All you have to do is sit up.
Now, and Chase, when she would say that to you, because family members take note, what you said was really profound, that you didn't try to control his addiction. You didn't try to control Chase. You said...
Well, not towards the end, but
towards the end.
In the middle of it, yes.
You said you're missed, you're loved, and I hope you make some good choices.
I hope you make wise choices.
Yeah. How did you feel when she would say that to you?
I kind of resented it at times because we'd play a tit-for-tat game, and I felt like she was trying to get one on me, which would make me drink even more. But in the back of my head, I knew that I was doing the wrong thing and I was loved. People did care for me. I just needed to get my act together and get straight.
Yeah, and is it true, like, love is the damnedest thing when you're stuck in addiction because it's hard to believe you're not worthy of it? The shame creeps in.
Very much so. It's incredible.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, okay, so now Chase gets sober. And again, I think so oftentimes we think, man, we're clean and sober now. Now life's going to be great. That's the end of our problems. And we just got rid of the drink. Now life is good. What things did you all have to work through? Because in my notes, I wrote there was loss of friendships, loss of intimacy. You had to create this idea of being your own people. Talk to us about some of it.
Yeah, so I mean, here's the thing is, you know, when you're in active addiction, you become enmeshed. You know, you become, and when I was newly sober, I became obsessed with his drinking. So then it was, I had to focus on Abby, and he had to focus on Chase. And as long as we did that, my thought was that maybe we could partner together and walk through this journey. But it was hard. I mean, you know, you get clean and sober and none of your problems go away. If nothing else, they're just...
All they are is they're just amplified.
You know, they're there. And now you're like, wow, I've made a mess, and how do I fix this? And so through that, you know, we like to say that our marriage is 3 years old now because we're like toddlers, you know, trying to navigate life. But the one thing that, you know, we really focused on was I knew that I was no longer the same person that I was when I was actively drinking and actively using. So with that came the grace that I had hoped people would give me that I wanted to give to Chase, because he wasn't the same person anymore. And I wanted to give him an opportunity to kind of grow into his new found sobriety.
It's hard to be selfish. You have to be selfish at that point. When you've been so selfish for so long and hiding in a bottle, all is selfishness. And to give yourself selfishness is very hard to do.
So then you have to be selfless with your love for each other. You know, you're selfish in your recovery, but selfless with your love. And, you know, the one thing that we really focused on was setting boundaries out of love, not resentment. And that's the only way that you can really detach from a painful past.
Can you give us an example of that? Setting love out of boundaries, not resentment. What do you have an example?
Yeah, go ahead. Well, just the boundary of love is, you're having to rebuild trust. You're having to rebuild, so it's a boundary for me was, if you say you're going to do something, you have to show up. And that became something that we had to do with our children. We created trauma for our children. As alcoholic parents, we created trauma. So it was our job to take that back. So we had to set very healthy boundaries out of love. We're no longer going to scream at each other. We're no longer going to fight. We're going to talk. We're going to show up for our kids. We're going to do what we say we're going to do. We are going to support each other and love each other. And sometimes that means just even
sitting in silence, just being with one another. Yeah. We have this three little squeeze thing we do. It's just not all words have to be said. Sometimes just being present.
What's the 3-year-old squeeze?
So you squeeze somebody, and 1, 2, 3, and that means I love you, and you're with them. Because sometimes in relationships, you just need somebody to sit on that bench with you. Because you feel so alone. So sometimes, when and we will say, I think I shared this with you, I'm in it right now. I'm in it.
Which means you're in your head. You're stuck.
Yeah, because this doesn't go away. You have to deal with it now. The goal is that you deal with it in a healthier way. You learn how to cope with it. You learn how to take care of it.
Yeah. Now, y'all are also in this tribe of the Canada tribe, and some others of you in this room are in this tribe too, of having 4 children. Mm-hmm. And I know some of you, are all your kids here tonight?
All of them except for one. He's in California.
Okay, that's right. So 3 of the 4 are here tonight. You all talk very openly and honestly with your kids about this, and you said something that really stuck out to me. You said that we have honest conversation, we listen to them no matter how much it hurts because of that trauma you created.
We traumatize them, and we encourage the open line communication in our house. That's key. And for them to come and say stuff to you sometimes, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. They can say things that come out and hurt from the past, and you have to deal with it. And it's very sobering when you have to hear some of the horror stories that you put our children through.
Yeah.
But we have to honor that we created that trauma. So we have to hear them, and we have to, now as their parents who are in active recovery, we have to also, not only take back that trauma, but if we start to see old behaviors, sometimes when I'm having a particularly rough day, I say this to Chase all the time, growth for me is just not taking a step backward. It's just not going back to those old behaviors. It's not going back to losing, my ever-living mind on people. It's, realizing that I can embrace the pause and showing that to my children out of respect and love.
And it's also acknowledging each one of them has a different way of showing and absorbing what they've gone through.
Yeah. So do you guys find that you have more grace for one another now? Is it, I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but easier to love one another?
Very much so. It's like a very new marriage, new relationship, like starting fresh. It wasn't always like that from the beginning, but now we're getting to that point where.
Yeah.
He's my best friend. So there's this ability to lean in. I loved that you said that of, when you go through this together and you kind of survive it, and it really is surviving.
Yeah.
I now know that I can lean into him and he can lean into me, and we can support each other in that. It's still my responsibility. I recently said to him, it's not your job to make me happy. I don't even know what makes me happy sometimes. How is he gonna know,
Right.
And I can't set that expectation. And so it's really having to become the best version of yourself so that you can show up authentically in your relationships.
I love that. So in closing, you just shared some really cool things about what this community has meant to you and stumbling upon this community. Can you just say a few words about what the free community has meant to you?
Go ahead.
So we were driving by one day, and I was like, whoa, what is that place? It like jumped out at me, and we Googled it, and we were like, we're going, and we went that night. And Chase will tell people, we live near 10 churches that we drive by all the time, and we've always been like, oh, maybe one day, oh, maybe. And we went that night. And the thing that I will say is, walking in here, I felt like home. And we've met such wonderful people, and it's the sense of, Ryan said something very early on, and he said, in my previous church when I was growing up, it was you believe, you behave, and then you belong. Here, you belong. And then, you start to kind of believe, and then you start to really behave because you're in a community of people who know your story. And we got a text message, we're part of the home team. We love being a part of this. And, Carrie was like our very own Chase and Abby. And we feel that here. And just the other thing is, I've never gone into a church where somebody has lined us up and said, you are supremely good. God is pleased. And especially as a recovering addict, to be told that we're good. I've been told I've been bad my whole life.
Man, I forget how powerful that is. To just be told, you're supremely. Do you all know that you are supremely good and God loves you? You're good.
Amen.
Man, how powerful is that?
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for being part of this community and for serving on the home team. I cannot encourage you all enough to get to know Chase and Abby. We had just the funnest conversation right here this week, and it was a powerful moment for me, I'll be honest. When Abby was a little bit late, sorry to call you out, you were a little bit late. Chase and I were sitting on a couch. She walks in, and y'all were like, I thought it was like, how long have they been married? Because he stood up, they embraced each other and kissed one another, and I thought, what a beautiful thing. Just the simple things are the beautiful things. Thank you for sharing that with us tonight.
Thank you.
Chase, dude, 3 years sober. Congratulations. Love y'all. Yeah, they're going to hang out for a few minutes, for a while afterwards. So if you want to get to know Chase and Abby, get to know them. They're cool people. All right, y'all. Oh, y'all are like rock stars. Listen now, we love you. We love you. Just your kids and friends. But you know what? 5 years ago, that was a different story, wasn't it? All right, y'all. The way we end things here at Free is the same way we started, except not with celebrations. We do it with heartaches. Because I say it every week. You were not created to carry burdens alone. That's why we do community. You can try it on your own. You're probably like me. You're going to find that you suck at it. You're not meant to carry these burdens. So we do it together in community. And we're going to take 3 minutes, and whatever burden you're carrying, the heartache, the thing that's got you kind of torn up inside, share it with the community. Share it so others can be praying for you and lifting you up throughout the week. If you're online, take 3 minutes and drop a comment in the YouTube section or on the Facebook thread so we can do this stuff together as a community. Derek will pass around a mic. So let's take 3 minutes, and you can raise up your hand, and Derek will give you the microphone.
I'll start. I want to lift up my father, who's still out there struggling with fentanyl, nowhere to be found, and then lifting up Hallie, who is struggling with kidney disease and underlying issues, so praying for her.
Prayers for your father, prayers for Hallie. Thank you, Derek.
My name is Kristen. I would like to hold up my sister's father-in-law again. He is still in the hospital. He's got lung issues now, so they've had to put off cancer surgery again. So prayers that the lung issues will go away and they can finally do the surgery.
Thank you, Kristen. Lifting your father-in-law up, your sister's father-in-law. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us.
What's up, guys? This is Drew, member of the tech team. Just want to let you know last weekend will be my last weekend with Free. Next weekend? Did I say last weekend?
You said last
I'm not off to a great start. I love you all. Take care.
Show Drew some love tonight on your way out, ladies and gentlemen. Love you, buddy. Right in the middle here. My mama.
Hi, it's nice to be here tonight, and if you all could pray, statement to say to pray for the hurricane victims, but I did have the honor and privilege to help a 79-year-old man, and his wife suffers with MS. He is one of you. He's got 41 years of sobriety in, so while we carried memories and life to the curb, his belongings were trashed. But, so it's a hardship, but within that, he was grateful. His spirit was grateful. For that was a testimony to me. And I saw things that were hard to unsee. So if you could pray for Charles, that would be great. And if that reminds you of all the other people that have lost homes, that would be good too. It's heavy in Florida right now.
Thank you, Mama. Prayers for Charles and all those dealing with the effects of the hurricane. Derek, you want to turn that mic off? I'll just, here, use this one, baby. That's my daughter. That's why I'm calling her baby.
My fish died, and I'm sad.
That was a sad day, wasn't it? Thank you, Shiloh, for sharing that with us. Oh, do we have one more? All right, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it.
Hi, I just asked for prayers for a close friend of mine who recently experienced a relapse. I'm really hoping for strength for them.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Prayers for all those battling relapse, battling addiction. And y'all know that, the primary thing we do here is we exist to create community. Like, that's the outcome. People ask all the time, well, what are you going to be in 5 years? What are you going to be in 10 years? We exist to create community. And I know that, as you just mentioned, there's people struggling with relapse and addiction. We have people battling overdoses. We've lost people in this community to overdose. And do we have the new giving video, fellas? Yeah, Danny made us a new video, but there's the numbers from 2021, 2022 of death by overdose. And this, we're also told that we're in this epidemic of loneliness and social disconnection, that it's an epidemic. It's the most real epidemic of our time. It's killing people. And that's why we exist, is to create community. And so your giving is ways to help create and sustain this community. And I just want to remind you, there's 3 ways to give. You can go to the free app and you can do it there. You can go to the website at freespiritualcommunity.com and you can give there. And there's also our giving kiosks, one here and one just outside these doors. And truly, it's your, and I say it every week, it's your generous giving that allows this mission of breaking the silence to continue. We exist because of your giving, and that's the most real and honest way I can tell you that. Thank you guys so much for those of you that are part of that. Thank you for making that a spiritual practice in your life and for making that a sacrifice in your life. We truly are grateful, and it truly helps us keep going with this mission of breaking the silence of addiction. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It feels like we should close with a prayer. Oh, heartaches. Online heartaches. Who's joining me up here? Who's got a mic? Where did the mic go? Do you have the mic, Derek? Online community, I promise you, I did not forget about you. We were just pausing to give you more time to get your heartaches in. That's what we were doing, Derek. Let's join with the online people.
Jan Deckert, praying please for friend that is hospitalized from fentanyl overdose. He is 45 and very much wants recovery prayers for him. And if anyone could share their contact info for me to pass along, I would greatly appreciate it. Lifting up your friend's friend, fentanyl is a scary, scary thing right now, and it's taking a lot of people. So lifting your friend up.
Yeah, man. Thank you, Jen, for sharing that with us. Francis is down in Arkansas. We miss you, buddy. And he says, we miss you so much. Need your prayers, Francis from Arkansas. Francis from Arkansas, we're lifting you up, whatever you're going through
Love you,
tonight. We're lifting you
Francis.
up this week. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Carrie Green, Allison, miss you all. We miss you too. I'm on my way to healing and one more step to go. I can't wait to be there in person again. We lift you up in healing. We can't wait to have you back, Carrie. We love you.
Yeah. And we're here for y'all. Stephanie says, I'm still praying for Florida. Mom and sister are safe and have been helping out her community all week. The videos and photos are so sad. Yes, Stephanie, my mom lifted that up tonight, and we're praying for all these, all the ones who have suffered with this effects of the hurricane. So thank you for lifting them up.
Love you,
We're
Stephanie.
doing that.
Christy Sundberg, prayers for my friend Kathy's husband, Matt, who is in the hospital for liver failure from alcohol abuse. He's not expected to survive. She's dealing with a lot of shame and guilt for not asking for help. Christy, lifting up your friend's husband, Matt, and her wife, because shame never fixed anything. So we definitely want to lift her up and lift you up.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us, Christy. Lacey says, pray for those thinking of suicide.
Amen.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning them, Lacey, lifting up all those battling with thoughts of suicide. Thank you for lifting them up.
Steve, is it Sutlip? Did I say that right?
I think it's Sealip.
Stephen, please keep Dr. Kevin G. in your prayers. He's 50s with ALS, now retired due to his illness. Thank you. We're lifting up Kevin G., Dr. Kevin G. for sure. Prayers are with him.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen, for being part of this community. Thank you, Dave, for joining me. All right, y'all, so I screwed up the rotation just a little bit. But we do love our online community, so thank you all for joining with us. And now we can go out with a prayer, but can we just take a big, deep breath with all the joys in this community, all the heartache in this community? Just breathe it all in. If you'd like, you can open your hands. It's just a sign of openness that you're open for new perspective, open to God's new thing, open to who you are. And let's go out with a serenity prayer. If you don't know it, it's on the screen. And it goes like this. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen, my free brothers and sisters. This week, as you go out and get new perspective, as you change in your relationships, engage the question, what relationships are you going to lean into during this season of your life? And as you do that, may you experience all kinds of grace and peace, and we will see you next time. Love y'all.